Hey guys, this is Paul and Angel over here at Power Window Repair. We've got a 911 2002 model. This is the 996. We're going to show you how to remove and reinstall a window regulator on this vehicle. One sign that you know your window regulator has gone bad is it'll either get stuck or you could literally grab it and drag it up and down by yourself. That means the plastic wheel or the plastic glass carrier in there is broken and it's released the cable, so the glass is literally free to travel by itself. First thing you need to do is go ahead and get the convertible top back. Angel's going to proceed with that right now. Once your convertible top is down and in this position, you can access the panel. So we need to take this panel off and part of the seat area out. I'm actually going to let Angel take over from here. He's going to do the number on this one and catch up with you guys in a bit.
So we're going to start by taking this panel off in order to get access to the regulator. This cover comes off right here. It just kind of pulls straight forward out this way. This guy needs to come off. The speaker needs to come off. And then at that point, we can fold the seat down. And then this guy needs to come off too. And once we got that, then we can work the panel out. So once you have your panel removed and you got it worked out that way, this is what you're left with. You got a couple of bolts right here. You got some 13 millimeters right here that need to be removed in order to get access to this area right here. And then you have two 10 millimeter bolts right here. The other one's hidden back here. That takes out this little plastic channel right here. Once you got that removed, you'll have access to the regulator, and then you'll be able to get to the glass and take the glass out and see the next steps. I'm gonna go ahead and remove these parts, and here we go. All right, after you have removed the 13 millimeter bolts and the 10 millimeter bolts on this side, you have everything exposed. Get you some wedges, pry this back a little bit just so it gives you a little bit more access to get in there, and that helps a ton with the removal process. And then once you got it right here, you can try to pull up on the window. If it comes up for you, try to get it up as high as you can because you want to disconnect the glass. There are two bolts down there that hold the glass, the 10 millimeter nuts. You need to loosen those up. The best tool for this job is a ratcheting 10 millimeter, and get in there and just turn at a time as best as you can. Go ahead and loosen that window up. If your window's stuck all the way in the very bottom like this one is, if you have, or you make yourself one of these custom tools, it's pretty much a ratcheting 10 on an extension. That way you can reach all the way down in there. This one is wrapped in plastic dip, rubberized coating just to not scratch the glass because this window is tinted, and as you're moving back and forth, you will scratch the window. All right, I was able to go ahead and pull the glass all the way up. You got easier access, but you still need to get in here with one of these guys, and it just makes it a little bit easier. All right, once you got your glass out, you just want to set that on a safe place. I usually put it in the front seat. And then at this point, once the glass is out, you're able to get to these two 13 millimeter nuts that are on each top side right here. There's a 13 right down in there, and then the other 13 is right here. You can access those through the holes that are right here. I believe it's right here. And then there's a third one at the very bottom, which is behind here. Kind of got to pull this plug out the way, and there's a little access hole right there. And that's how you get to the bottom bolt. Extension with the 13 on there, about that long. If you can get a 13 that's secured on there, you don't want to drop it in there when you're working, because if it falls into the bottom, 95% of the time it is lost forever. And broken, if you want to come around onto this side so you can see exactly what I see, and that way you got an idea of what you're trying to get. So if you look straight down in there, I'm going to point to it with this. Right down there, that's the bolt you want to loosen up. Right down there, that's the last one on the bottom, and you can see through there is all you got to do. Just loosen it up a little bit, not too much. You don't have to take it all the way down, because once you loosen up the top ones, that's going to slide out for you. And let's get to the top ones. So if you run into the problem like I just ran into, where you go to loosen it up and the whole thing wants to come out along with the stud, then it's a little bit different process to get that one off. At that point, you want to get a ratcheting 13 and the 25, and you're gonna have to lock that stud in place like that and hit it with the wrench like that. Otherwise, they're both gonna spin and it's not gonna come off. So once you get it like that, just find the spot that works, and there it is. There's always they use this green thread lock on there, and majority of the time it makes it a lot more difficult to remove. Now, once you got it removed, you do not want to lose it, so make sure you have a good grip of it. Pull out the screwdriver, and there you go. That's the one that gave us a hard time. And then there's one more on this side, and then we're finished with the bolts that are holding it on. Hopefully that side comes out a little bit better. And there it is. That one came off a lot easier. but it does have that little green Loctite that they use. All right, once you get to this point, the regulator is ready for removal. You want to feed the plastic tubing that was on the bottom right there a little bit back towards the inside, so that way when you pull up on the regulator, you got a little more slack on the harness. And there it is. You can start working it out from that point. And real soon, I'll show you where this regulator failed. I'm going to massage it out gently. And there it is. And then once you got it this high, you want to disconnect the harness. Reaching in here, it's real tight. You can't really see it. I'll show you once I got it unplugged. And there it is. I removed the regulator. You can tell right where it broke right there. The plastic wheel is completely gone. These guys are also a problem, all these plastic pieces. What we do here, we put all our beautiful metal parts on there. That's what separates us from the rest of the people out there. So once this one's ready to go back in, I'll go ahead and show you guys the finished product. Okay, so this is the wire harness that goes to the motor. These are the little pins that connect it. So it's easier to go in there with a hook and just kind of unhook them, or you could squeeze them sometimes and that works too. And then once you got it done, just set it off to the side and just let it hang there for when you go to reinstall it. It's not all the way at the very bottom because it's hard to reach all the way down there. But by adding these wedges, just opening this up a little bit, it'll give you that extra clearance to get your hand in there to get the regulator out without too much struggle. Parts on there, we got our special design metal tensioners right here. We got our metal wheels. Pretty much this is our Porsche rear regulator ready to go back into the vehicle. Installation is the same thing as removal, just backwards. Start by plugging in the harness, working it back in there and getting it lined up as needed. You might need to adjust this down to get it in the rest of the way once you have the motor plugged in. All right, here we go. Once you hear that click, you know you're good. Then you can start working it back in, side to side. Usually when you get to this part, you got to roll it down a little bit because this part's overlaying here and it'll just help get it in. At that point, you just want to turn the ignition back on, hit the corresponding switch. Just like that, you move it down a little bit out of the way, and that gives you just the amount of space you need to be able to slide it in. And if it's not, just like that, it's back in its home. Try to align it to its original marks of where it used to be, if you remember, or if you marked it. And if you don't know, a good halfway point, just line it up in the middle, because if you pay attention, it is able to, you're able to slide it forwards and backwards. And that is going to affect when you do the final adjustment of the alignment corresponding to the front window. So a good point, if you don't remember, just put it in the middle, tighten it up there, and then you should be all right. All right, once you got that bottom one tightened up, you can go ahead and do the top ones a little more freely. And since we didn't change any of the stud settings or anything, and we're hoping everything's going back the way it was when it came out, it shouldn't be too difficult to realign the window. But I'll show you guys that process right now too when we get to that step. Once you install these 13mm nuts, hand tighten them, make sure you don't cross thread. All right, once nice and snug, the window's ready to go back up. To get that carrier back up, the trick to that is hit it with a switch, and then you get your window in there, and then you can start putting it back together. You have the original memory marks on the window where the stops used to go. That is a great guide right there just to use as a rough idea of where it needs to go. And then once you got it set back in there, you can kind of tighten it up, make sure everything is lined up, it's not overly hanging where it shouldn't be. And then we can test it at that point and start making sure it's lined up properly with the front window. Not overly tight, you don't want to break the glass, but tight enough to where it's not going to move around. All right, just like that. At this point, you can go ahead and remove those, and we can roll up the front window just to see how it is on the alignment part of it. Testing alignment purposes, there it is. That's not too bad. If you want to come on this side real quick so I can show you what we got initially and what we're going to do to change it. So if you pay close attention, the window's kind of going too far forward. The gap up here is a lot smaller. If you follow it down, it opens up right here. So we're just going to get that lined up right. Simple. All we got to do for this process is loosen up the glass carriers and readjust the window. These same two right here. Loosen them up lightly. All right, once you have it loosened up, you can start wiggling your glass to where you need it. In this case, I'm going to do something along the lines of this. There we go. You see how that line got much straighter? That's what you're looking for at the very end. That straight line right there. And then you know you're good. And then when you open the door, it's right there on the memory mark. So that's what you're looking for. Once you got that setting, you can go ahead and tighten it up. You know it's pretty lined up, and you can further continue to close it up. One last test just to make sure it's still straight. It is. It looks pretty straight to me. We're good to go on that window right there. And then to reinstall all the plastic pieces and trims and covers, just roll the window back down all the way. And that'll give you the rest of the access you need to put everything back together. And that's it as far as the glass adjustment goes. So when putting them back in, the two bigger 13s with the bigger washers are the ones that go on this side. The smaller 13 without the washer is the one that goes right here. Not to get them confused. All right, once everything is nice and snug and you're happy with the way everything lined up, the panel can go back on, and then the speaker and all the other little bits and pieces that are left. You want to make sure your wire harness for your speakers on this proper side and doesn't get left behind. You want to fold the seat down, get these little tabs right here lined up with these two little holes that are right there. Pretty straightforward. Then you just want to make sure everything is lined up smoothly. There's a little guide pin in the front that you want to kind of set in as a reference, and then the rest of it will kind of just go together at that point. Snap that back. Phillips on the honeycomb. You got to make sure these are still there. Just go ahead and reconnect the speaker. Make sure you don't have any screws stuck on the magnet. Speaker goes in that way with the little hook. This one had two different screws, so we're just gonna have to work with what we had. One's a Phillips, one's a Torx. All right, one that's attached. Got that guy there. Don't forget about this last one right here that goes on top. That one's gonna be a Phillips. And all that one does is lock this in place, make sure it doesn't move around. And you want to make sure all your little clips are reset here. These are the little guys, sometimes they'll fall out. Just go ahead and reset them into where they go. And then this piece just snaps back in once you have it lined up. And there it is. Back the way it was. This guy right here goes in only one orientation. It has a longer leg on this side, which typically goes on the top. Just like that. Pop it in. There's nothing else to it. And then the last component that we have that needs to go back is the seat lock stud. And that's Allen 6. Some people use a different bit, Torx 30 or 40 on here. Just use the Allen 6. It'll save you a lot of time. You don't want to over tighten this one, because if you ever have to remove it again, they're really easy to strip. And then the last piece actually is putting the seat base back in. That just slides right in. It has Velcro on there, and you're done.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us on this video of how to remove and reinstall a rear window regulator on a Porsche 911. One other thing I want to discuss about these vehicles is on these convertible top, the hydraulic ramps go bad often. They leak, all the hydraulic fluid comes out. The top basically struggles to work or stops working, and the hydraulic pump makes a bunch of noise. We rebuild these hydraulic ramps. We've been doing it for over 10 years. We put a lifetime guarantee on them, and they work out really great. Here's how to tell if your hydraulic rams are going bad. One thing you can do is grab a flashlight with the top down. You can see the silver barrel of the hydraulic ram in there. It's this guy right down here. What you can do is, with a dry hand like this, go ahead and put your hand just down the sides, plenty of room to do it, and you just rub your hand along the hydraulic ram, just up and down. And if you can feel that it's wet or there's any oil, which you can now see on my fingers, that means your hydraulic rams are bad. So we have a video on how to do this job. It's actually not too bad at all. If you can do a rear window regulator, you can do the rams. Go ahead and give us a call if you have any questions about any of these jobs. 480-570-5116. Thanks, guys.